Good afternoon. Appreciate everybody being here today. Representative Humphreys, thank you for coming in off the hayfield to do this broadcast.
Absolutely, Bob. Glad to do it.
We still got so many issues. I don't even know where to start at. Really, tell you the truth, there's just so many things going on. It's poorly managed than anything I've ever seen. But I would like to know this: OCI. I keep hearing more, not OIG, more and more comments that OIG is involved in. Someone getting a letter or someone's getting a day off. What is the issue with OIG? What are they responsible for?
Well, Bob, we had that hearing on the doctor for all whistleblower allegations,
right,
and the rape failure to investigate properly. And so the thing about it is, what I'm hearing with OIG and where I'm getting complaints from the employees is that OIG sometimes is used as an extension from the from leadership, from the administration, to go after people. And that's what that hearing was about. When we're talking about whistleblowers, the allegations of that was that OIG came in and investigated this doctor and the first time unsubstantiated, second time unsubstantiated, third time, and they're investigating on things as simple as, did she report a dream? Now, is that what we need to be doing? Is taking OIG and investigating, did we have a dream? Now, the courts found that they did manufacture all this, that they didn't have any reason to fire her. And so OIG is going after her, doing all these. They're going to fire her on that. And guess what? The court said, no, that's not, you made all this up. You don't have a reason to fire her back. And so, Bob, when I've gotten calls this week on that they found a large quantity of drugs there in DOC and that they refused to file on them, and that this is getting to be a more common thing, and that they don't want to have their people have to go to court. So anything involving court, they won't go. So they're not filing drug charges on people, these kind of things. And so, again, if you're going to be investigating a dream, but you won't investigate or won't properly file on people for drugs, one of the
not only drug, but for rape.
Yeah, that was the whole deal. Is, again, I'm not saying they're not investigating rapes. What I'm saying is that they're allowing these people to resign, and that they don't have the authority to say you can resign. They have to turn that over to the district attorney and let the DA make that decision whether there's enough evidence to file on the person. But if a person confesses to rape, that goes a long ways to filing on people. And again, if they're finding large quantity of drugs and you know who has it, now if you found a large quantity of drugs and you can't prove who's got it, okay, what are you going to do? But if you're finding them, my understanding, you know exactly who's got them, but you refuse to file charges because you don't want to go to court on it, don't want to take your time. One of the things that got testified in at that hearing was that one of the officers had bodily fluids thrown on him twice. And again, we're not filing on those inmates. So, there's a crime. Was that crime investigated? Was that crime turned over to the district attorney? To my knowledge, it was not, And again, those things are happening. But then when employees do things, we're investigating them. We're turning them into a major deal, whether that go to court on them. There was one that it's a couple of years old, but it really aggravated me that we went to court on the guy when they violated every policy in the book and stuck him in a really bad position. Now, I don't agree. I think he did. I think he could have backed off, and he did get a little aggressive on, controlling the inmate. I don't think he was so aggressive that it required them to fire him. I don't think he's so aggressive that it would require them to file charges. And obviously the charges were bullcrap because they ended up giving him a 90-day deferred and letting him go back, even stated he could go back to work for law enforcement, which is admitting we have nothing at all, but we're going to make this guy, after 2 years of just giving him hell and him having to hire a lawyer and him having to do all this, we're not going to let him win because then he could go back to work. We're going to make him admit, and he's got to admit, because if he takes it, he's looking at going to jail or whatever. So they offer him a sweet enough deal that, that he takes it. And so is that a good, if that's your case, that you're going to end up with a 90-day deferred sentence and he's allowed to go back to work for law enforcement, that tells you don't have case. And my deal is, when I'm willing to drive 5 hours and testify for a guy to show, hey, you used him on 2 units, he's supposed to be on a fixed unit. There's supposed to be 2 people on that fixed unit. So he twice as many, but he wasn't just one working on that fixed unit. They were having him work on another unit, which is double violation of policy and triple the amount of people that he probably ought to be watching. And then anytime you have an inmate out, you're supposed to have 2 people on that. My understanding, now I'm going back a little ways of reviewing that policy, but here's the deal. Was any of that ever investigated? Do you ever see them go after the administration because you violated policy and you didn't put enough people here?
I've never seen an investigation since I've been around that had anything to do with the administration, to investigate the administration. If they follow the policies, they did things right. But we're showing up more and more OIG reports on issues, say demotions or days off. They're being utilized kind of more like a Gestapo, try to come in there to use them, and they use them as a crutch. OIG said this, so we got to do this.
Bob, I filed a bill about 2 years ago to take OIG out from, and again, while we're talking, hey, this is not just aimed at the Department of Corrections. This is any agency, an agency that's going to investigate yourself and have this kind of, and again, DOC has a large agency as far as when it comes to OIG, internal affairs, whatever you want to call them. I'd looked at when I filed that bill to remove them and put them under either the public safety secretary, which she didn't want them. That's a problem. Nobody really wanted them. I'd like to stick them under the AG, is where I believe they ought to do. And I think we should have every agency investigated from there. That would be a third independent party, somebody who could control that and would have less reason to be, tainted. But we looked at that. And again, one of the things I found when we looked at that, if I remember, we're going back 2 years, Bob, but I think I looked at an agency. I was trying to think. I looked at Tulsa, and I think that they had. I was trying to remember how many they had based off the numbers, but it was astronomical.
Well, how many? If you was guessing today, how many people do you think that works at the Department of Corrections are problems or deserve to be fired?
Well, I'm sure there's a few. I mean, I don't think it's a great number. But again, Bob, here's what's happened is it's tough to get employees to come into law enforcement, really tough for prisons. That's not an Oklahoma thing. That's a nationwide thing. And again, we've lowered our standards, so we're not getting the quality of people that we were getting. So I'm sure that there's more people need to be fired. And the question is, it's not a problem to fire people. We act like this is a big issue, and everybody gets mad because, well, y'all try to step in, y'all don't know anything. True. But again, here's the deal. The administration's getting reports just like we're getting reports. But the administration's getting it from their people. We're getting it from the other people, the people who's actually doing the job. They're getting it from supervisors. The question is, who's telling the truth? That's where you ought to be looking and investigating. But at the end of the day, Bob, the question is, what did you do to change that person's behavior? Because making a good employee, guess what? Employees are going to make mistakes. We do verbal, we do training, we do. That's the whole deal is teaching them to become that good employee. And so, if we have an insubordinate issue, guess what? Is that a firing issue? I mean, I don't know. I guess it could be in the right situation. But if it's just somebody talking to you and you got your feelings hurt, is that really, what did you do to change that behavior? Do you do progressive discipline? Is there a history of where you've worked with this person? And let's say they did have some discipline in the past. Is it for the same behavior? So if you fixed one behavior and now you're working on another behavior, guess what? Your goal is to fix
What if they don't had no discipline in the past?
That's the problem. That's why you're winning. That's why you're winning over there in the court that was set up to beat you. So they set all the rules to beat you. I mean, let's be honest. The court system for employees is rigged to the agency side. It's rigged. I mean, they are the ones who set it up. They set it up so they can fire people and really not be questioned. And they're getting beat all day long because guess what? They're not showing that it was done.
Well, with us so short-handed as we are, you think they would try to make that employee a better employee, and rather than try to get rid of him or give him 20 days off, 10 days off, try to work with him and just make him a better employee. But it's no wonder, we can't hire people. We are so low in staffing. It's totally ridiculous what's going on, and you can't solve it. This issue by going and robbing people from one place, send them to the other place, or you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's their answer to the whole problem, rather than trying to fix the problem and doing something about it long term. People don't want to come to work at DLC, knowing how they treated.
Well, Bob, we're saying they're shorthanded. Let me tell you why I will go with my opinion, because I hadn't seen a number on how many they've increased, how many they've lost. Now, I know the director said the other day at the hearing they've increased by 16, and that's fine. If you've increased by 16, kudos to you. But did you lose 20? Did you lose 16? Where are we going? Are we going forward? Are we going backwards? Are we holding steady? I would probably say we're maybe holding steady. If not, we may be going a little backwards. He acts like we're going a little forwards. I don't think there's much momentum either direction. But here's the deal. I'm going to base my opinion on what I see, and let me explain that. When I see people having to go to other facilities and fill into those other facilities, and not just Great Plains, but Dick Connors, these places, when I see that, then that tells me you're shorthanded, or else we would have full staff to run those. When I get calls from those prisons who say, we're already shorthanded, and now to peel these people off is leaving us even in a worse position. Now, that's what I'm getting called. So that's what I'm basing. I'm not basing my opinion off of fact. And I want to be clear on that, because I can't get fact. I don't have the ability to get.
Well, they're not transparent enough. That's why you
can't
get
here's the deal, Bob.
But here's the thing, though, Representative. They've got in Dick Connors, they've got inmates that's gone as many as 5 days without a shower, and that's how bad it is. And
that's what we're being. You know what, Bob? Again, that's what I'm being told from people I'm receiving information from. So I do want to be clear. That's what we're reporting what we get told, and that's the stuff.
That's all we can do.
That's all we can do. Otherwise, I don't know anything. Other than what I'm getting told. And that's what we go on to represent the employees. When the employees tell us we're getting out here so that people can hear, and we're the voice of those employees. And that's what the employees are saying. And again, if that's a fact, for me, why are you running off employees like this doctor who reports rape, who the court found 4, but you're going to be hell bent on making certain we will never, and Bob, I laughed, talking about the rudest person in the world. Their lawyer that they sent over there the other day, Oh my gosh, you talk about rude. And Bob, she wrote him a letter saying, how did she say that? She said that at the time of termination, uh, we have since, that's what it says, we have since found or discovered the word, we have since discovered new incidents that are of serious nature that would endanger the employee and something like that, Bob. But here's the deal. What you're writing there is just wow, beyond belief that they're so mad at this doctor that they're going to write her saying we'll never hire you, no matter. And they come back and say unless the court requires. Well, the court's done told you twice, and you done snubbed your nose. Now you're writing a letter just so you can stick it to the person and say we're not going to hire you. It's a thumb in that person's eye. It's a thumb in the court's eye. And then to write that and say, we didn't have anything to fire you on, but now we've discovered. It's just like admitting we fired you for absolutely no reason, but now we went and dug up some crap on you and we'll fire you again, or we're not going to hire you. Bob, that speaks to the attitude. That speaks to the problem right there.
Well, you talk about attitude. Now, I'm told this again. This is what I've been told by cadets that they are being told. These are the ones that are at TDYs at Hinton, that if they do not volunteer, that they will never promote, and probably get a letter of concern if they do not volunteer.
And Bob, I want to tell our listeners that you're reading that off a letter because I know that because right before we started, you read me that letter. And again, that's not us saying that. That's employees telling us that they are being threatened, that they will never promote, that they will never get ahead in the Department of Corrections unless they do exactly what they're told here. And again, I have no problem with promoting people who volunteer and go the extra mile, but telling a person and threatening a person with you'll never promote no matter what, seems a bit, again, it's that threatening attitude. It's that retaliation attitude. It's you're going to do whatever we say and we'll make your life miserable and you can leave. We'll terminate you. We'll do whatever. You damn sure going to do what we tell you to. And again, I have no problem as an employee following instructions, but when you have to work under that kind of environment, under that kind of hostility, under that kind of attitude, it becomes problematic. And again, that's what these people are saying. It's not us saying it. We're relating what people are saying. And the question, because we're going to catch hell for even saying that. We're going to get, it's going to be said, oh, y'all just out there listening to a few sorry people and y'all are lying and all of this. Bob, we're not lying. Just like when we went to that hearing, I was told we were going to look ridiculous. I had people calling me and saying that the administration was telling we were lying. They went out in the paper and said that I was misleading, that I was only doing it for political reasons, that we had zero evidence. Bob, we spent 6 hours. I had mountains of evidence. I laid out evidence. Everyone we called, maybe 1 or 2 people we didn't have evidence to go along with. We had one of the inmates, we had some statements that they had given. We didn't have anything else to back up that. So again, Bob, we get told all of this stuff, that we're making this up, that we're lying, that we're just out against the administration. I'm not out against the administration. I want to say, Bob Bean, you've been talking on here for quite some time about that they ought to give raises to these people or give money per diem and give incentives to go out there. And my understanding, they've started doing that. And again, I want to say kudos. That's a good move. That's a positive move in the right direction. And again, I've gotten some letters. I've got some people who make a valid point, make a heck of a valid point, Bob. What they're saying is, how come we go out there and start it in the roughest condition, and we volunteer and we don't get anything. Is that fair? And now these youngsters going to go in behind us now that it's up kind of running, and they're going to get money. And, what they're saying, I agree with. I think they make sense. But at the end of the day, at least the department is hearing, and at least the department's making effort, and the administration's making an effort to do the right thing. And anytime I see positive movement, Bob, we're not going to sit here and say, oh, let's use progressive discipline. Let's use, hey, when we see something positive, let's call it positive. Let's say, thank y'all very much. Thank you. Good move. And again, hearing these other employees, you may consider that because they're making valid points. And the way we're going to recruit people to come to work, commercials and things like that will be great. But your number one attractor to attract people to come to work for you are other employees. And if your employees are bragging about you, people want to go to work. And if your employees are cussing you and mad at you, and I can tell you, Bob, since that hearing 2 Mondays ago, Bob, I've got people calling me, asking me to come all over and sit down and meet with them. They want to share what's going on. People in the Department of Corrections that are asking me would you come in person? Let me sit down and tell you what's going on. And again, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make a point to go listen to people. And again, so, I know there's a lot of problems out there still, Bob.
Well, it seems like with this management, they're not going in the right direction in a lot of cases. I don't know what their problem is. They're not transparent with us. They don't tell us. We call and ask about issues. Oh, no, that's not going on. Everybody loves working at Hinton. That's not a problem. We don't have a problem there at all. And I will say this. They did do a good job in moving the inmates from North Fork to Hinton without any major issues.
Bob, I got a prison down here, and man, for a couple of years, we were having problems after problems. And I can tell you, yesterday, I was getting ready to come up to Oklahoma City. If I came by and visited you for a minute, go up there and pick up my old cow check, which, by the way, Bob, boy, cows are up. Man, we hit a home run yesterday on all that. But I was headed to El Reno, and I stopped to get me some gas, pulled in behind one of our correctional officers who was getting some gas there and filling up the DLC van. And anyways, I jumped out and went up there and visited with him for a second. And when I got out, he told me, he said, I want to tell you something. I was ready to go home. I was ready to retire. And when got rid of some people down there, changed some things, I decided to stay. And he said, man, things are so much better. I was at church the other night, and I had a person say, hey, things are better at this institution. So, again, there are places that are having a positive effect. But, again, these investigations, is OIG being used as an extension for retaliation? Are we firing people for no reason? Are we bringing people over from OMES and firing our own people so that we can replace them with our good friends and cronies? Some of that does, you know what I'm saying? I ain't saying it so, but I can tell you I have gotten from their own administration. Bob, I have never seen, usually you have a director that makes the troops mad, but the administration's okay with them. Or you have one that makes the administration mad and the troops are happy with them. That's a rare one. I like the guy the troops like and the administration's mad at. That's who I like. But rarely, even more rarely, to find a guy who makes everybody happy. But here's a guy that's making everybody mad. Everybody's mad. Now, if he pulled the rabbit out of the hat and he's doing something I can't see, and he may be doing, maybe I'm just not seeing what he's got to go. But again, I'm getting calls from his own administration saying that they're canning people for what appears to be no reason and bringing OMES over, people out of OMES over to replace them, which is problematic to me because I would replace them with my own people. That's how we promote, and I would replace them with people who have a knowledge of the Department of Corrections.
Well, we're making positions for people instead of bringing people over that we need to.
I would have been fired if I was going to be firing people. It'd have been at Martin Luther King. It wouldn't have been all over the place that I've seen. Of course, now I will tell you, Bob. There's a couple of some of these wardens at the prison. I got no problem. I have no problem with some of the issues. Now there's a bunch I do. I'll give you one example. The guy that they let go at Hart Pettigrew. Hey, I'll come straight out, wide open, and say, "What in the world?" You know,
one of the best.
If they had him shooting, if they caught him shooting somebody out behind the walls, you know, or behind a fence, okay, you know. But I hadn't heard. I mean, everything I've heard, they had no reason to fire him.
Well, I'm hearing there's going to be a number of lawsuits come out on the director for the way he's acted and the way he's terminated people. That's I've never heard of before. It's maybe eight to nine wardens, going together and going to sue. That they're just going to be in more lawsuits. And DOC has plenty of money to spend on lawsuits apparently, because they want to do everything in the courts right now to go to the district court rather than try to settle them at their local level. They'd rather go to the district court, spend money, spend taxpayer dollars and lose, spend the taxpayer dollars and win. But you're never going to win because you're always losing, because you're losing people that you could have made a good chance, could have made them better.
That's what I don't understand, Bob. If I'd have come in as him, I would have created a grievance process. I would have really incorporated your organization in part of that to try to avoid lawsuits, to try to say, hey, how do we work together to make sure?
Let me tell you, we got one person in top management over there that calls our members a bunch of crooks. That's what he's calling the OCP. They're all just a bunch of crooks. This is somebody in a high level. That's what they think about us.
Well, and again, what's the basis of that? That's just a snide remark. And again, Bob, it just shows that you got people who don't want to work with you, because guess what? You're going to hold people accountable. I can't just fire who I want. Now you're questioning me. How dare you question me? And again, getting questioned is good. I mean, getting questioned on all. Let's look at, you got some bad supervisors. You got bad supervisors. I mean, here's the deal. Quit believing everything they say. If the court finds twice you wrongfully fired somebody, why don't you start looking at, maybe it ain't that doctor, maybe it's their supervisors. If nothing else, they ought to get fired if they can't no better put together. If I'm gonna fire you, Bob, listen, if I go to court with you, I'm gonna win. If I go to fire you, I'm gonna win. If I go to have a hearing, and you know this, we could have had a hearing months before we did this last hearing. And people were asking me, Humphrey, when you gonna do it? And I'm like, hey, I gotta have some stuff, gotta get my ducks in a row. But Bob, when I went in there, guess what? When I'm asking Matt Frisbee, was she terminated? Because I'm holding the sheet where she's terminated. Did you win in court? Because I'm holding the sheet that shows you winning in court. Did they give her a letter saying that she wasn't in 5%? Because I'm holding the letter. Did the court, did DOC then turn around and try to tell, after they lost, make up a bullcrap reason and say she's 5%, when I got a letter saying she ain't 5%? Did they do that? Yes, they did. Okay, because I'm holding that letter. Did the court rule against him again? Guess what? I'm holding that letter too. And again, when we bring an OMS, boom, I'm holding that. I'm holding this. When I'm talking to the AG, and the AG goes, well, it's not really rape. It's more like statutory. Well, hold on. I just have to have the definition of rape. And guess what? Under Section 7 right here, it doesn't call it statutory. It don't say kinda. It says that if you're in supervision, if you're a correctional employee and you have sex with that inmate, it is rape. It's defined as rape. Everybody knows it's rape. Quit doing that. Bam, I've got that. Ready for it. When DOC don't show up with the right person that I asked to come, guess what? I got a folder because I suspect that's what's going to happen. I wouldn't have brought him neither, tell you the truth. I wouldn't have brought him.
Well, JJ, let me ask you a question. How was you treated when this thing come up? When you was asking for people that you requested it from different agencies to come in. Now I'm just going to tell you, my understanding was when we was looking at this, several agencies called you several times trying to make sure that they're going to give you the right answers you want and be there and cooperate. Versus, how did DLC cooperate?
Bob, I'll give you an example. OMES, when I originally contacted OMES, they called me back because they said, yeah, we'll just come over without a subpoena. And they called me back and said, hey, because it's a whistleblower thing, and there's a lot of where they had to protect that whistleblower, we would prefer you do subpoenas. So then our speaker said, we'd prefer not to have to subpoena people. So I called them back and said, listen, we don't want to subpoena you. Will you come on a subpoena? And what we agreed to do on the whistleblower incident, that specific incident, they wrote an affidavit saying what had been done in that case, so they wouldn't have to testify in that. They could just say, let us read this affidavit. Here's the affidavit. Then what I did have them come testify in is what's the process? Where did this get dropped? What should be done? Guess what? We talked 2 or 3 times. They were super. AG, same thing. I was talking to the AG about, and again, the AG wasn't necessarily, they didn't testify in the way that I really disagree with them quite a bit. But guess what? They were friendly. We were friendly. I'm being friendly back to them because it's okay to disagree, but I'm going to show you why I disagree. Here's this rape definition. What you said is not correct. Would you agree? And guess what? He has to agree. And the guy is. So here's the deal. All these agencies, Matt Frisbee come over, no problem. Had a guy come from Arkansas, no problem. Didn't subpoena anybody. Actually wrote the department and said, hey, here's the 2 witnesses I'd like to have. Here's the times I'd like you to be there. Never heard, not one. Didn't get one response back. I actually sent a letter to the speaker saying, hey, I'd like to subpoena these 2. And
they just basically give you the fingers what they did.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't have to do anything for you or to tell you anything because I'm the director and I can do anything I want and you can't do anything about it.
Well, and here's what's funny, Bob. I was and I told you already, I don't care whether they bring him or not. I wouldn't bring him if I was him because he's going to either have to lie. He's going to look bad. If they bring that guy over there, he's going to be borderline right on possible criminal.
Well, I mean, ask you to correct it. So people who didn't know what it was before, how we got this information, you might go back to the courtroom, to the lawsuit the 2 officers had it custody of their kid and how this came about.
Sure. So in looking at this, we had all these rape cases alleged, and I found out because people are calling me. I didn't go investigate. People are just letting me know. I found out that one of these cases was a correctional officer and a correctional officer had a kid together. So they're having a custody. In this custody, it comes out that this male officer had sex with an inmate. And so I called the attorney up in this case and found out absolutely he was told by an OIG officer that, yes, the guy confessed to having raped the inmate or having sex with, but the OIG said it was consensual, so we can't file on him. Well, we know that's a lie. We know that I've got the rape definition. These guys know that's a lie. Why would you say that? And that's the stuff that we're trying to show.
But we really just found that out really by accident.
Yeah,
I mean, we're sitting there at the Capitol and we're not going out to the prison and asking questions, getting people.
Bob. We found it out by accident, but then we put a little work into it. Bob, it's not much work to look up a case, find out who the lawyer is, call his office. Good dude. In fact, we sat in there. You were with me. I sat in there, had a great conversation. Great dude. Guess what? It wasn't much work. It wasn't a lot of work. But here's the deal. We also found out the 2 inmates sat and heard another inmate bragging about giving oral sex for tobacco. And so we also found out there was a former employee that ended up getting letters off of a person and that confirmed. And so what they're saying is, well, there's not enough evidence to confirm. We had to have corroborating evidence. A confession is not enough. Well, I call BS on a confession ain't enough. Confession gets you a long ways. But if you want corroborating evidence, how about letters that's from the same guy talking about having sex with the inmate? A confession and letters get you, I mean, Bob, we call that a grand slam back when I worked it. You know what I mean? I'm blown away that they would actually have the audacity to sit there and say, oh, we don't have enough evidence. We're not enough. Bullshit. I mean, wow, y'all leave. And so we got inmates. We had letters. We had letters of employees saying we're scared to come forward. Now, Bob, here's what's funny. One of those letters of a person who was scared to come forward. Now, you gotta understand this. They do not know what that doctor wrote. They don't have a copy of what that doctor wrote. They got not a clue what the doctor wrote. They write a letter and say, I'm scared to come forward, but here's what I know. Guess what? You would have thought they took it right out of the doctor's notes. Yeah. I mean, same inmates, same correctional officers that they're saying admitted this. They talk about the warden being drunk, which is one of the things. They talk about threats. They talk about the guy from Arkansas that didn't even know his first name, but said, hey, this guy had knowledge of this, and they treated him poorly and went on. Guess what? That's when you know things are real, when you're getting the same information from two people who haven't cooperated together and worked together. So again, we've got massive stuff like this, and we're being ignored. And again, they didn't bring their person. Is that by accident? I don't.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Could they had not received your email? Could they overlooked it?
Bob, they showed up at the right time, and they showed up with the other witness. So it's obvious that they received the email.
Okay.
And again, here's the deal. Bob, I was prepared. I knew they wasn't going to bring that guy. I had a folder that said, if he don't show up, here's the state law statute says I could have subpoenaed you. So I put that into evidence. Here's the letter that I wrote requesting subpoena. I was requested to ask you to come instead of subpoena. Here's a letter I wrote to you asking you to come. Here's a letter I wrote back saying we ought to subpoena you because it's unlikely and that you refuse to even answer or acknowledge. Now, Bob, you know, when the correctional committee that is over you, elected officials that are over to govern, that's what we're there. That's why we got elected, is to make sure this is being run right, to make sure the budgets are right. When they call you and you will thumb your nose as a non-elected bureaucrat and you will thumb your nose at them, when the courts say hire the person back twice and you will thumb your nose at them, just dump, you know, again, that speaks a lot to what the problem is. It speaks to the problem. And for me, we can find all kinds of evidence that seem to support this doctor. I can find all kinds of evidence that show, did you really work this case? Because I ain't hit a lick. I ain't broke a sweat, and I'm finding all kinds of stuff. And I didn't even get, I almost guarantee you, if you'd let me go down there and talk to them inmates, boom, we turned the place upside down.
Basically, though, Representative, you can kind of see the picture here with the way you was treated as to why they got so much problems in the facilities.
Well, Bob, if you'll treat the elected officials that way, what would you do to young people? And again, whether it's how it's just a question of how you treat people. And I tell you, I get accused of being a horse's butt all the time, saying stuff I said a word a while ago I probably shouldn't have said. That's okay. But Bob, you know what? I don't think I'm too rude to, you know what I'm saying? Even if I disagree with you, I can disagree with you, shake your hand, go eat dinner. I just had the DA on I forget what day it was, Monday. This Monday, I had the Oklahoma City DA in my office, and we had great conversation on 4 or 5 cases we're working together. And right before she got out, I said, now I got the last thing to talk to you about because me and you are going to totally disagree on this. And I'm going to run up and down the halls screaming, you're wrong, but we're going to get along after. And I'm going to take you out to lunch. Guess what? She thinks I'm wrong. I think she's wrong. But we left on great terms. She's a nice lady. I'm not politically, we may be a little different, but I like her and she's got guts. And so,
but you don't have to dislike or like. I mean, you can get along and work together.
You can work together
and go to lunch. I mean, I know Director Allball, whenever he was in office, now he was a hardcore guy, but you know what? We got along and we could have difference of opinion, but we still was able to work things out to make it better for the prison. But what we've got here now is somebody who's not going to cooperate. And he's got running this prison the same way. He's going to run it to the ground before he leaves, because he'll be gone as soon as the governor's gone.
And here's where I'm at. If you want to move in the right direction, you got to have vision. You got to have vision, and in order to get people to jump on what you want, you got to share that vision. You got to have. You know what I'm saying? You got to get people bought into the vision. And so again, if that's to get more people, what's your vision? If that is to build a better place, what's the vision? How are you going to do it? Through training, through this, through that. Have a vision. Share the vision. Get people on board with the vision. Those people who are opposite you, guess what? What your job is to win them over to your vision. And again, if you're not telling if you're not telling the Capitol and the elected officials, then guess what? You're going to run over there and you're going to work one or two of them, and you think that's going to work. And that's what you do. And you work one or two people, and that's all we're responsible for. I'll talk to the governor. I'll talk to these two or three people at the Capitol, but everybody else is beneath me. And I don't need to visit with you. It seems to be the attitude. I don't know. I get along with Harp. When we talk, that's fine. I get along. But just like if you don't respond to me, just like everything I ask for is no. Again, that's a two-way street. And guess what? We're going to come out with a lot of bills this year that I never dreamed I would file. But if that's the way we will play, I'll fix it to where, we're gonna be able to do this, and I don't need to ask you because now it's state law, and I think I can get the biggest problem. I might have a hard time getting it on the floor if he's got one or two that want to block it. There are some up there who can block stuff, but I will tell you, I get up early in the morning, eat my Wheaties, and get it in front of them, and then I'll put it out there publicly. You won't kill this. I mean, here's a good bill, and here's why we're running it. You tell the public why you want to kill it. But Bob, at the end of the day, to work with organizations like yours, it's an awesome opportunity. They're looking at you as a third party problem when they ought to be looking at you as a awesome opportunity to have a word right back to. But again, they're having these what do you call them? Facebook. They do a Facebook deal out, and what I'm hearing from the people is they won't answer questions. They censor the questions that come in. Bob, we haven't even begun to talk about Probation Pro. I read some things 2 weeks ago about Probation Pro. Man, I'm getting all kinds of complaints from Probation Pro. And again, I will tell you this, most of them brag on old Rudy, their supervisor. Most of them give him a pretty good score, but they just say that the administration doesn't know who they are, and again, doesn't care about who they are or what they're doing in the community. And Bob, I'm not making that up. I get these letters, and that's what I'd ask the administration. What is it that you want me to do with these? You want me to throw them in the trash? You want me to ignore them? You want me to just say, hey, all you people out there, y'all just out of luck, brothers. I mean, hey, y'all just go on about your business. If you got to work buku's hours, if you're told to go somewhere for 4 weeks and you got somebody sick or you got elderly parents or you got farm animals, whatever. That's not our concern. You're just an employee and you do whatever they say, and you have no rights. You have nothing. And again, when we have prison blow up and we have all these problems when we're ignoring Bob, when you go to ignoring drug problems, when you go to letting people throw urine and crap on your officers and do nothing about it, when they do that and the person you go after is the officer, that's problematic. Now I understand there may be a situation where you have to, if the officer's wrong, we're going to see where that falls out. But at the end of the day, can I get a witness? When an inmate throws piss and crap on you and you're the one fired, wow, that's in. I don't know what institution they, you know what I'm saying? I don't know where they come from, but it sends a bad message when I was there. That empowers inmates to say, we run the show. We don't have to listen to nobody. We do whatever we want.
I'm told that the drugs in the prisons is a lot worse than what it's ever been. It just can continue to get worse. Now I don't know if it's true. I just tell you what I'm been told.
Well, Bob, we're sitting in the cheap seats and we're getting all the you know what I'm saying? We're getting calls, we're getting emails, we're getting from parents, we're getting from.
I got one from an inmate who said that at one of the prisons they just walk around and they're smoking. The officer just walks along and ignores it. They're smoking dope. They're just ignoring it.
Bob, I got a similar one. Who would believe the inmates would be writing asking you to clean up the prison?
Yeah.
Who would believe that would happen? But Bob, I've got one that said that the inmates were talking on the phone. Got one that said that what was that the other day that they had put it out on YouTube that they were smoking dope, taping it on the phone, putting it out, sitting in prison, laughing about putting this out in prison, that they actually caught them and did nothing at all to them. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's sticking it in your eye and saying there's nothing you can do to us. And again, we got
to wrap it up. We've already been on here an hour, just real quick. So I'll let you have the last word.
Well, Bob, first of all, I do want to say that positive direction in giving these people some money, positive direction in trying to get people to work other facilities and volunteer. We do want to say, hey, try not to force people, let people go at their will and incentivize instead of threatening. We want to see threatening. We got concerns over OIG, and that come out of that hearing that you're using OIG wrong, that they're not investigating things, throwing urine on people, rape stuff, drugs, and all of these things that we're hearing, that's not being investigated, and that you're using your agency to investigate doctors who make you mad, other people who make you mad, and that's not a good way to use OIG. Again, we want to encourage that we begin to look at these rapes, we begin to throw them to the right place, which will be the district attorney. Let them actually work the case and get corroborating evidence. It's out there. It's called work. Again, treat your employees right. Bob, I want to encourage them to humble yourself and go to work with you. And I don't think that's going to happen, but I do want to encourage them to say, look, and I'm not totally happy how I've been in the process, where I'm at in the process, but I'm going to tell you what, I'm more than humble enough to go back and say, hey, let's let bygones be bygones. Let's work together, try to get good legislation, try to get raises. Hey, I want to see the officers get allowance, uniform allowance. That's something we got.
They need a uniform allowance, and they need a boot allowance. These guys shouldn't have to be paying $100, $120 for a pair of boots. They have to have
people. Let's work together, and that's what we ought to be doing. Am I going to hold my breath hoping that happens? I'm not going to, but I'll tell you, I wish we would. I wish they'd work with you. I wish they'd work with me, and I wish we'd work for the betterment of the employees, and that's what I'm here for, and that's what I'm going to always be for, Bob.
Well, I appreciate you helping me out here and helping DLC out and helping the officers. I know I get the guys tell me all the time that you're awesome, They call you and you talk to them, you take their calls, you call them back, and everybody just is proud of that, and they're proud of you. But I always close it out with this: when we got people up in there at Martin Luther King, one of the top highest person there calling OCP members convicts. That's a I don't know what to say to it. There's just no other things you can say. That's the attitude they have. And I'll say this: I'll close her out. I appreciate everybody being here today. And if you got any questions, any concerns, but I guarantee you the OCP will be there. They're not going to bully us. We're going to fight. We're going to stand up. Thanks a lot. God bless you. And we'll see you there.